Hello and welcome to Recovery Arkansas and Beyond with your host Jay Cupid from the Other Side Ministry and Dana Davin Ward from the Harbor Home in Conway, Arkansas. This week's guest is Bennie Foster, Associate Pastor with the Mountain Top Cowboy Church in Heber Springs, Arkansas.
Welcome to Recovery Arkansas and Beyond. My name's Jay Cupid. I'll be your host, and I'm joined with my lovely co-host, Dana Davin Ward.
I like to call myself your sidekick. I'm your sidekick.
She's my sidekick. That's what she does.
That's right.
So Dana, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who we got this morning?
Well, we've got somebody very important with us today. He was just telling us about all of his duties, and he is an amazing guy. His name is Bennie Foster, and He is the Associate Pastor at the Mountain Top Cowboy Church.
Yeah.
Yes. Glad to be here.
We're glad you're here.
Yes, I love this place.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Jay's an old friend of mine, and Dana I just met, but I know her husband Larry from a long time ago.
Yep.
It's amazing how he's aged and I haven't, but anyway.
Yeah. Don't we all feel that way?
Graduated, we got that bulldog degree, you know.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad to be here this morning.
We're glad to have you, too. Hey, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how life was in your early life.
Well, it was simple.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in the 50s in Quitman, and we didn't have the problem. You didn't lock anybody out of the bathroom because it was down behind the storm cellar, and didn't have a lock on the door. But things have changed. Quitman was an idyllic place to grow up in the 50s because everybody knew everybody and helped everybody, and we went to church and school, and that was the center of the activities and your families, and it was just a great place to grow up. Met a lot of good people that still have so many friends, from that area. But it was a good, simple life back then. Yeah. Wasn't yours complicated?
Small towns are like big extended families,
yes.
too.
Yes.
It just everybody takes care of everybody else. If there's a problem, everybody comes to their aid to try to help them get through it.
I had never been out of Arkansas until I was 16, and Quitman had 200 people, and we had about 30 kids in our class, and I graduated and went to the University of Arkansas, and my first class was 475 people.
Wow.
Right.
Culture
And I was
shock.
very lost. I'm like looking around and thinking, we don't have enough people in Quitman to even have a class.
You know, we were so fortunate. Larry and I, my husband and I, were talking this week about just how fortunate and blessed we are to have been raised during that time, the 50s, the 60s. We were kids during that time. Even though the 60s were tumultuous, we were children at the time. We weren't really keenly aware of all that, but just how blessed we've been to have grown up during the time we grew up in our country when things were simpler. And it was about family, and it was about God, and it was about church, and it was about community. And it's a lot of that feeling has been lost, and a lot of that, has gone by the wayside.
Our security, our being comfortable in our surroundings, was always such a wonderful thing growing up in that area. But now I'm just much more cautious. My children, grandchildren, the kids at school, the kids at church, we've got more people around to make sure they're safe, and you count heads every 10 minutes to make sure everybody's there, and and it's something we have to do. We have to have security in churches, and never heard of that.
And even in the small towns, I mean, you think about, we live in Conway, and we consider ourselves a small town,
Correct. Yes.
and we just had the mass shooting in the park, and your eyes just get large thinking about what kind of world. And I guess the most important thing, thinking about you and what you do and what we all do, is how can we make a difference in our communities to try to bring that community feel, the love of God, just the benefits of serving God and being part of His kingdom work.
I feel Satan has, it's just evil, the shootings, the abductions, and all that kind of stuff. We had our missionary in South Africa got abducted, and it's all over the world. We're a little sheltered still in America, but it's evil. I mean, it's just evil,
Yes.
and the closer we get to the Jesus coming back, I feel like, Satan's ramping up the evil that he does in the world, because he knows what's coming.
Yeah, and that is the one thing we know. We know what the scriptures say about the last days and as we barrel toward that. So I do find comfort in that because I know it's all part of God's plan, but it's still challenging for all of us in ministry to navigate and what's going on in this world.
You bet. The first time I met you was at the Quitman Mercantile.
Boy, that goes around. Yeah, Jim Kelly and I, we sold Pampers and lawnmowers and chainsaws and tillers and
Wow.
I miss that guy, man.
It was a general store in that sense. We'd cut you a pound of bologna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
the
even
best
put a thumb on the
bologna.
scale.
Had the old creaking floors.
Yes.
And had that old store smell. You walk
Yes.
in the door, you go, I can get me a sandwich here.
Yes. Little bologna and sliced onion, and you're ready to go, dude.
Ooh.
I came by your car lot yesterday, too, and it looks like old habits have not died. You had, I think, turkey and slice of
Yes.
onion.
Hey, man, I got 11 grandkids. I got to cut back where I can.
Isn't that the
Well,
truth?
tell us a little bit about, because I think I know you pastored at Pleasant Valley for a long time, and in fact, you preached my father's funeral, and I didn't
did.
know if you'd remembered that or not.
Oh, yes. Loved him.
I sure remembered it because boy, we sure did lean on you during that
Mr.
time
Cupid.
in our life.
Well, my kids wound up kind of working in the store there, and for where Mr. Cupid did toward the end of his career, cooking and working there at the store, and just got to be friends with him, and he was so kind to Chris, and kind of took him along the way.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun. I started pastoring in Pleasant Valley, a little church out in the country. Great people. I still have so many good friends there. And I was there 22 years, drove back and forth from Heber, 15 miles. But Larry Thomas, a good friend of mine, our director of missions, came to me and we began to talk about a church.
Right.
Non-traditional.
Right.
Is that what we're talking about,
sir.
kind of the beginning of
Yes,
that?
sir.
And he'd been praying about it for a year, and God had just really impressed upon his heart. And so I began to covet in prayer with him, 3 or 4 of us. And so that began. And the beginning was kind of up at the restaurant up there. We would meet and pray and at which is now Arrow, but it was a Spunky Pig back
Spunky
then.
Pig, yeah. I
And,
miss that place, too.
So, yes. So Jerry Holmes and family was running the sale barn, and so we questioned him about being able to have a church service there.
Yeah.
So we got together as an association, and there was a vote that we would try to start one, and we did start this non-traditional church. And then Larry called me, and he said, well, churches are the ones that start churches. Would your church be willing to do that? And so I called our church together, and they were 100% in favor of that. And so first Sunday in February of 2009, a nice chilly morning, we began our ministry. Now, on Sunday afternoon, they'd bring cattle into the barn, so we had to start early.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And so
love that.
we started at 9 o'clock,
Right.
and so by 8 or 8:15, my team from Pleasant Valley would come, and we'd get it all ready. And different pastors would preach. Brother Larry preached that first Sunday, and he was standing on the floor looking up at the bleachers where people would sit and buy cattle. And so right in the midst of the hay and output, we stood.
Oh, my goodness.
And
Oh, wow. I bet that smelled really
chilly,
good.
a little, hay and grass and water, and all that. But you was careful.
It makes fertilizer. That's
Be
what
careful
that's
where
right.
you
That's what that
step.
makes is fertilizer.
So we began, and so I thought we better get donuts because we can make coffee, and it's awful early. And so Larry said, well, we'll have 25 or 30 maybe. And so I bought 12 dozen donuts.
Right.
Took them up there and had coffee, and people grab a donut and go up the stairs. And so anyway, we had 157 that Sunday morning.
The first Sunday?
First Sunday.
Wow.
Word had got out. A good friend of mine that was such a supporter of the church, Ronnie Barnett, he asked me one day at the restaurant when we drinking coffee after we had our meeting back there and praying, and he said, what are y'all doing? And I told him, he said, you let me know the first day, and me and my family will be there. And they were, and they still are.
And Ronnie Barnett was a true cowboy. I mean,
yes.
And he was
Bull
tough
rider.
as nails. He was in his mid-40s, and he was bulldogging one time, and I saw him hit the ground because he missed the steer.
Yeah.
And at thudded all the way across the arena, and he just got up and just, wiped it off. Yeah, I said,
wow.
I ain't messing with him.
No.
It's tough.
He's tough. He was.
Ronnie and I met in 1971. We took a Dale Carnegie course, How to Win Friends, Influence People.
Right.
And he and I sat in the very back because people there were, professionals, and it was just me and Ronnie, But anyway, we've been good friends ever since. But so we started that church, began, and it kind of grew, and we stayed there. And I resigned from the Pleasant Valley and came on there. And when we started as a mission February, chartered as a church in October.
Right.
God had just blessed us, and we began to, everything was free. Jerry was such a great host; they wouldn't let us do anything, and so we found land. I did in about 13, and I gave it to the committee that was looking at it, and they said, well, we can't afford that land. They want $150,000 down. And I said, well, I checked with Cindy, and we've got $150 in savings. Hello. So the committee said, okay.
God shows up once again.
That's right. God shows up, and so we
Wow.
bought the 7.7 acres or something like that, and.
Right.
And by the time we needed to pay it off, we accumulated other because everybody was, just chipping in, and so God's people, and here we go. So we got 17 acres.
The church of
Wow.
God's
And that's
people.
where you are now.
Yes, we bought another 11 acres, and built a building. It's we can seat 500 or so, and everything's paid for. And built an arena where we do ministry. Everything's free at our arena. We have horse shows, and the only thing we mainly do with it is try to invite people in, because somewhere doing the horse show, we just shut her down and we share the gospel.
And that's such a great outreach, especially in a community like this.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that won't come to church because they feel like they are not worthy. They won't be accepted or they'll be judged. And that's nothing against traditional church, because there's definitely a place for it. My dad was a minister, and but there's just it's so wonderful that there are churches like yours that people can just come as you are, and feel like, hey, this is something I can relate to. And then having the outreach of the horse shows, I'm going to have to go to one of those because I love horses.
I'm telling you, you'll love it.
It is.
You'll
We
think
had
that
such
would
a
be
great
awesome.
time. We're having an event Saturday where we're having some, a good Friday service at 6:00 tonight, and then tomorrow we're having our arena services on that Saturday. But it's all about sharing, the Lord.
That's
and
wonderful.
I don't ride horses, but I can walk around and talk to people.
Yes, you
And,
sure can.
They do it. We had so many kids last time. At the horse show, we had we had about 15 to 20 young people.
That's awesome.
That had some new families, but it is a good outreach, and the Lord provided the other 11 acres for us, and it just worked out. So I'm not sure what that's going to do, but God knows. So we went ahead and got it. So
That's right.
Amen.
And we're subject to it. We run a mission trip every year we've been going to Oklahoma every year, helping little Native American churches. I kind of like to tell them we're going to go to Oklahoma and play Cowboys and Indians.
Oh, I love that.
but it's a good kind.
It's the good kind. Yes, the good kind.
And every church that we went to and helped, we do maintenance and we do a little outreach. And the main thing that seemed like we do is we encourage that church.
Yeah.
We went to a church last year in Kansas. I'm just rambling here, but Kansas, Oklahoma, and the church is 195 years old.
Oh,
It
wow.
was planted
Wow.
back before, that was just Indian territory. And it's a Cherokee church, and they're down about 40, 50 people, but they needed some things done, and God always sends the people that can do it. And I'm the logistics guy. I make sure our people have a place to rest well, to eat well, because mission trip, that's the first two things. Then you get a lot of stuff done.
Right.
And then make sure they got the supplies and all that. Well, everything fell in such a great place, and we helped the church. That Wednesday night, we went to church with them, and the first few songs they sang were in Cherokee.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And it
That
was
was
so
amazing.
sweet.
That would be
Now, we
cool.
had the words, and they were singing in Cherokee, and we had them in English. And then the guys went off, and the younger man of the pastor, he preached in English, But and they're up and going now. We got their sign. They feel encouraged.
You bet.
And a lot of the times, that's maybe the most thing we do is that they just can't believe we've come over there. We don't cost them a thing. We take care of everybody. We take care of ourselves. We take care of the supplies. We take care of the plywood, whatever.
Right.
And they feel encouraged because, well, they've come all the way over here. We've got to continue on.
Yes.
Well, we feel like we've saved a mission point maybe because they get discouraged and, it's not going well and this doesn't work and the roof leaks. And we had church a couple of years ago. He had 2 kids to baptize, but he couldn't get the baptistry working.
Oh, no.
Well, we're licensed in everything when we go. So we have plumbers, we have electricians, but, now we have a baptistry that works.
You usually take Al with you, too, don't
That's
you?
right.
Al's a master of many things.
That's right. Wayne Belt but God always sends the people we need when we need it.
Yes.
And the guy said, well, we don't have anybody that can do that. I said, I know a guy.
Yeah, that's right.
I go out and I said, can you fix it? Oh, yeah. The steeple had blown off the church.
Right.
So we got it down, refurbished it, repainted it, hung it back on the top.
That's cool. Being the body of Christ,
Yes.
And sometimes it's the little things. And like you said, so many people get discouraged.
Yes.
And a lot of times they're looking at numbers. And I think this world we live in, and the bigger the better, and everybody's looking at numbers. But it's so important that we look at souls. And when you go in there and you encourage the congregation and the pastors, that they're important, that they matter. And also your congregation, the men and women that get to go to that.
Yes.
It gives them such a sense of purpose and camaraderie.
Yes, that's right.
And that's so, so important that we have that in the world we're living in today.
That's right.
I was talking to Emerson Fall. He's the Native American church planter in Oklahoma this week about another place. And we went to Oklahoma City a few years ago, and the church had been just a white Anglo church forever, but the neighborhood changed. Native American, Vietnamese had moved in, and they thought it was a church that they didn't fit in. And so we rebranded the sign, changed everything, and I call it the dead flower room. That bunch will always know there was a room bigger than this that had plastic dead flowers in it.
Wow.
We cleaned it out and made it a classroom.
Wow.
I love it.
And, people just get stuck in it, and the little families that were running it was doing the best they could. Yeah. But that church is up and alive. The people in the community that live there in that part of the town are coming to that church.
That's cool.
Emerson said they were baptizing people, and it just changed their perspective, when we can just do a little things, just fresh look.
Yeah.
I love it.
One of my favorite stories, there's a lot of stories that are my favorite stories about the Cowboy Church, but the first one is Ronnie Barnett and his family.
Yes.
And Ronnie, it was raised over around Divinity, I think, and he was
White County.
Yeah, he was, I think, Church of Christ. And,
yes.
And he brought his family to church up there, and every one of them got saved and baptized.
Yes.
Wow.
And Ronnie was that guy that probably wouldn't have walked into a church, not that he was against church, but he just wouldn't have felt like he fit in.
That's right.
But boy, at that sale barn where he went all the time and bought and sold cows, that was so familiar to him.
Yes.
That it was welcoming to him, and it just, it worked.
And it's generational.
Yes.
Look at what that one decision, just the fact that you said, hey, you guys said, let's do a non-traditional church, a come as you are, a place where people don't feel, uneasy or maybe that they won't fit in, and then look at the generations it's impacting.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of the local church.
Yes.
Is the families.
And that's just one family.
One family.
We're talking about.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the hundreds, maybe even thousands that have gone through the same thing.
Little Lindsay and Melody in our church, 2 young ladies, I baptized their grandmother, their mother, and them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's so
somebody
cool.
said, you know what that means? And I said, well, it means, their family's coming to Christ. He said, no, that means you're old.
Yeah.
Oh.
I said, well, thanks for pointing out the obvious.
The mouths of babes.
Yes, yes.
Another thing that was really pretty cool, I thought, Valerie and I started going up there because of Brad Sneed. Mm-hmm. Because Brad was a friend of ours, and he was doing the music up there, and we loved to hear him play and sing. We were like, hey, let's go hear Brad this morning. And we went up there, and we were hooked. And so one day we were up there, and I don't remember which pastor it was now, said, we need some help with the music. And so I got up and started helping with the music some. Yep. And one of my favorite stories about the music is that most of the time in the cell barn, in the dead of winter, it was cold in there.
Yes.
Now the people sitting in the bleachers, they were okay because they were pretty warm. But if you stood down on that floor, it was like freezing. And me and Johnny Suter, we would get those hot hands. and we would put them in our pocket, and we would play a song, and then we'd put our hands in our pockets until the next song because because our fingers got to where they wouldn't work. But
you notice we put the band behind in the ring where the cattle sails.
In the ring,
we could put them in there and lock them up.
Yeah, put us behind bars. You
have to keep the band under control. You never know.
Rowdy bunch.
One of our members up the church, a baptizer there at the church, we had a horse trough. We still baptize in a cattle trough. And she still is a little bit edgy about me because it was cold. And she said, Judy said, now, the water's okay. And I said, it's fine. Oh, it was cold because it's cold. And, there's no heaters. And it's we run the water in the tub and we come outside and she said, I was blue coming out of that water. But,
she probably felt like you tricked her.
Yeah.
Telling her the water was
fine.
fine.
I told her it was fine. It's wet. That's all it's got to be. Baptism is
she got
baptized.
Be wet. Yeah. That's right.
Cold, hot, it doesn't matter.
You bet. So I've got another question, and then I'll talk about a little bit about Jimmy Thomas and his role out here. But I was kind of curious, where did you get the call to preach? When did that happen?
First Baptist Quitman.
Okay.
Surrendered to preach when I was 30.
Okay.
Bill Williams, my brother in the Lord, was the pastor there, and I talked to him about it, and I said, I don't know what God's calling me for. Now, Bill could preach and sing. Singing preachers, they just bug me, because they, why do you have to be able to do it all? Like Bob at our church.
Yeah.
And Brother Bill looked at me and he said, well, I can assure you of one thing, it's not in the music ministry.
Right.
I said, I understand you, brother. I can't sing. I can't play anything, But I surrendered to preach there, and I preached at Fairbanks. I preached at Ender. I preached at every little church that would invite me, and then I went to Post Oak, and then Plainview over in Yell County, county church over there, and Lord brought us back to Heber, and I began to work, and then went to Pleasant Valley. So in the 40 years, I've been to Post Oak, Plainview, Pleasant Valley, and then I moved up to MTCC, Mountain Top. But
tell us about your role up there. What do you do up there?
Little of everything. I'm the key guy or the finder guy. Hey, the building out there's leaking. Okay, I know who to call. And seriously, I would make sure we get donuts and take care of that.
I just wanted to get to the important part. The
donut man.
Cops always go for
hey,
the donut.
We're the biggest purveyor of donuts in Cleveland County. My granddaughters that live in Rogers would come in for the weekend, and little Abigail, she'd always say, Big Daddy, are we going to the donut church? Yes, we are.
They have to have a special shift down at the donut shop just for y'all, don't
yes,
they?
we make our, and when the other side comes, I bump it up 5 dozen because when my family of 7 or 8 come in late, and don't have donuts, I get an earful,
Yeah, you get that call.
Those guys ate up the donuts, so I bump
and they
it up.
will.
I'll bump it up for this morning. But we started early doing that, and people have said, well, seem like we, maybe could use that money somewhere else, but the fellowship that we have so many. We've got 2 old men tables, I call it. Well, a lot of these people live by themselves. They're older, and they'll come in there at an hour before church and drink coffee and eat donuts and fellowship.
Right.
And
Jesus broke bread a lot of times with people
the resurrected
a
Lord.
Relationship.
Yeah, after the crucifixion, he's sitting on the shore with the fish cooked and come and dine. And so I really think that it's not a wasted,
That makes sense.
They come together and eat and fellowship. And that's how you get to know one another across the dinner table.
You bet.
That's so true.
We feed every Wednesday night. We have about 100 to 130 on Wednesday night, and we feed our children because that's the only way you can grow a children's ministry.
Right.
The parents, if they take the kids home, cook a meal, try to feed them, and then come back. And we have so many kids from Rosebud, Quitman, Westside, and Heber.
Right.
And so we feed, and the older people so enjoy it. I had a lady tell me last night, I look forward to this every week.
Yes.
She lives by herself. And
she gets to see all those kids and
socially,
families.
Socially, you see them sitting at tables, and they catch up with one another because... when I was raised, you could run around Quitman all you wanted, but at 6 o'clock, you're at the house at the dinner table because that's where we kept up with everybody. That's how we found out what you've been doing.
That's right.
And that's good for the church, for those older people.
It's good.
And so we believe it's such a good ministry in that aspect of it.
Yeah, and a lot of churches have lost that, kind of lost that home feeling. I know when I was growing up, Daddy was a preacher. They'd have dinner on the grounds.
Yes.
And boy, that was my favorite because we got to eat church lady food, I always called it.
Yeah.
You know, the potluck, the fried chicken, and, you know, and that was so special because that was about community once again. And that's what our world really needs now is that sense of community. People need to feel like they belong because with social media and everything being so impersonal now, people texting instead of calling, we need community. And I think that's why there's so many people depressed. They're lonely. They don't know where to go. And if the church can meet that need and be that place of refuge and community, then it's going to really make an impact.
Oh, yes. Last night, Wednesday night, we left after church. There was 2 or 3 pockets of people still out in the parking lot. Over here, there were 7 or 8 guys talking,
That's
visiting.
good stuff right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's how they get that connection, what you're talking about, Dana. And then over here, there's several young people, and they're doing this, and Amy's talking to them. And I just thought, you know, on Sunday morning even, the church doesn't empty automatically.
Right.
People are standing around in pockets and visiting.
Yeah.
And that's how you make the church family.
And that's a sign of a healthy
That's right.
church.
Exactly.
A healthy church, yeah.
Let me do this real quick. Hey, we're a new channel, and we just love to come in here and visit with all these different people and hear all these different experiences. And if you like what you're seeing, just go to our channel and subscribe. Give us a like and share it with your friends. We hope that what we're bringing to you is something that's interesting to you. And another thing I want to say, Steve's going to put our email address on there and our contact information. We'd really like to hear your prayer requests. We go to chapel 2 times a day, and we'd love to take and print those out and take them to chapel with us and pray over your prayer requests and your concerns. And what I really want to do as much as anything, I want you to send me your praise reports. If you'll send your praise reports, it would be awesome, and we'll try to read some of those on air as much as we can, and because God's out here working every day for all of us, not just a few select people. He's working for every one of us. So just send us your praise reports, and we'd love to share those with others. Now I want to get back to Mountain Top Cowboy Church's role out here.
Okay.
You know, the first thing is J.L. Stone. We talked about him at the I think when somebody else was here, and when Jimmy was here, we talked about it. And J.L. was so awesome, and man, I miss him. I just miss him, and man, he was a door greeter extraordinaire.
Yes.
Man, if you didn't feel welcomed by J.L. Stone when you walked in the door, just get back in your car because you don't even like yourself.
Yes.
Right?
JL just, I'd preached his funeral, you know, and the thing, he worked up at Camp Bear Track, and but he'd bring their laundry down there, and every bag he had, he'd be praying for that kid, you know, because up at Bear Track, they would come and stay for 6 weeks, and it was kids we didn't know, so he would learn them, you know, and when we were beginning to put it together, a friend of mine from Greers Ferry said, get a hold of J.L. and Linda. They need to be there.
Yes.
And we had 2 families that we enjoyed, but J.L. just embodied the thing of come on in, you're welcome.
Right.
And we've had so many people say, you know, they miss him at the front door, you know, and you know, he got promoted. Can you imagine the front door he's working now?
Oh, my.
You know, but
I just wonder how long the line is of people that he influenced to be there when he walked to the gate. I bet you could, you know, it's probably 20 miles long and couldn't see the end of it.
But, you know, when Brother Larry began to pray about this church, you know, when God's in it, it's in it. And, of course, I could talk about Jay being our music guy at the church and God speaking to him about coming here, you know, and starting this. And, you know, just as Larry had the call, you know, this couldn't have been without God tapping somebody to do it, and he tapped Jack Cupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always said when God gets on board, you better buckle your seatbelt because it's going to take off like a rocket.
And Jay's only thing, well, he kept forgetting who the senior partner was. You know, Lord, I don't know if I can do all this. And, you know, no, you can't.
Yeah, we know that feeling.
I think Jay's the only one we ever fired up there. We said, go.
Get out of here.
My wife used to be on that original, and she worked
Yes,
with
she
the
was.
other side board, and the ministry, and of course we all could see it in Jay. It's just Jay had to recognize it, and we've talked about that just like anybody. When the Lord called me to preach, I'm like, Lord, my last big full-time job was a shoe shine boy at Quitman, I don't really think
love
this
how
is
God calls
qualifications here,
Yeah.
But, when God calls you into
He
that,
does.
and it was definitely there, and so I've laughed with Jay about, buying this place, how it worked out, and every other thing, and so we've been a part of the other side from the get-go in
beginning.
that aspect and praying for
Startup
it. And
team
support.
started meeting at in the fellowship hall.
Fellowship
Wow,
hall.
I did not
Cowboy
know
Church.
that.
Because
Wow.
I was doing the music for them up there, and somebody wasn't thinking about what they did. They gave me a key to the building and the code to the alarm.
You took advantage of that.
So I took it. I found out what day were they not meeting up there.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
Tuesdays. Nobody was really
Wow.
there on Tuesdays. So I just started
That's right.
getting a startup team together, and we started meeting on Tuesdays up there.
And of course, we've been feeding here the third Wednesday of every month forever, and of course,
Yep.
JL would spearhead that.
That was
and
JL's baby,
but
so to speak.
it was finally. It's like Jay, we're going to fire you. We're going to kick you out. You got to go do this because God's got it for you. And when God's in it, you don't. You just trust Him.
Yeah,
That's.
I told Brad probably a couple months before, several months before. I said, look, there's going to come a point where I can't do this anymore. I said, you need to start looking for my replacement.
Yeah.
And so I remember the day that Wyatt called me in the office after service, and he said, it's over, it's done. And I'm like, man, it was like, it took the air out of me because I love that ministry so much, and I enjoyed every minute I was up there, praising God through song, and man, it just, but I got it, because I'd already told him. I said I got fired at my own hand, I guess, because I told him, I said, you have to do this without me, But
Yeah.
It can be hard to end a season.
But the really
You know?
cool thing is when we finally got to that place and I stepped down, we were having sometimes 2 people show up to the startup meeting. Sometimes we had 4, sometimes we had 5. It just depended. After I stepped down, we were having 8, 9, and 10 people showing up. And it was kind of like I felt like God had said, okay, set down this thing that you really love and show me how committed you are, and then we're going to make this thing go.
That's right.
And that's...
I'm ready as soon as you are.
I'm ready,
Is
yeah.
what God said. I've got it. If you'll just hook up.
Yeah, if I could have heard his voice, he probably said, I've been waiting on this for a while, I
Yes.
didn't know if you were going to do it or not.
Well, we all have the Peter syndrome, that we love the Lord, but, you can do that, Lord? I mean, really?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to experience with Easter weekend to people, nothing's impossible
Right.
with when the Lord gets involved. And
That's right.
on paper, this place was totally impossible.
Yeah.
The Cowboy Church was totally impossible.
Yes.
Just raise the money to do it, and everything.
I had people actually vocalize that to me, and they go, this is never going to work.
No, can't work.
They said, how are you going to fund this? And I said, donations? He goes,
Yes.
nah, not going to work.
Yes.
And he'd went to some of his friends. It was a guy who was kind of one of the big shakers and movers.
Yeah.
And he had coffee with all his shaker mover buddies, and he presented it to them, and he came back to me and said, everybody up there said, that ain't working. And I'm like, they don't know my God.
The things of God confuse the mortal man.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
And if
Maybe
you're not
that's-
confused, that means you're not trusting God enough, because He can do the impossible. When He walked out of the grave, He had my attention.
Yes.
Because that's
absolutely.
He is who He said He was.
Perhaps that's the theme of this show this morning. Is God is the God of the impossible.
Yeah.
And we're all of us sitting in this room are evidence of that. And so there are people watching, I'm sure, that are in impossible situations, or God has shown them something that they're to do, and they're not equipped, and they don't know how, they don't have the resources. And we 3 are living proof
Right.
that God can do it regardless if He calls you to it.
That's right. Well, think of all of your residents. They're in situations that they cannot see any way out. They're in situations in their life that nothing's going to change. There's absolutely nothing you can tell me that's going to make a difference until Jesus shows up.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing to watch it when He does, because
That's
you can
right.
see their countenance change.
yes.
Yeah.
the young man we was talking about out here that friends with, he totally different in his life.
Yes.
Dependable, a good father, good husband.
Yep.
Loves the Lord, but when we're at a certain place, we can't see that.
No. It's like we got blinders on.
But right. Yeah. But God is, when He shows up, then the miraculous happens.
Yes.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
That's
Amen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we don't find Him; He finds us.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys support us in other ways too, like let's see, Jimmy Thomas.
Yes. Hey, searching through ministry, we love to be involved in ministry, not just mission trips, but, our ladies quilt. We have one guy that makes knives, and we sell them for missions. They raise $6,000-7,000 a year between quilts and knives.
Wow.
And we use it for missions just all over. We support a mission down in Mexico, Carlos and Carmen, and association-wide and everything. And then Brother Jimmy comes along and hooks up with the church. He and Rita, sweet people, and Jimmy is a horse person.
He is definitely a horse person.
Loves them and all that kind of stuff. And so he began to work with our arena ministry. And the only thing bigger than Jimmy's old bear claw hand is his heart.
Right.
And he's such a tender-hearted for the Lord and people, and that comes through. And so he was with our ministry down there, and his secular life work changed, and kind of looking for something, and Jay was kind of needing somebody, and so we just keep him on staff and send him out here. We loan him out.
He's a loaner.
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
That means you don't have to pay them, right? Yeah. When they're loaners.
Well, we supplement him a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But, he was just a fit for this, you know, and the guys love him. He loved the guys, and he's good with them. And of course, we get him back, pretty regular with the guys here, or events, or of course, he and his family were at Jail's funeral, and so he's still part of our team, like Jay said, that we just got him loaned out for this is his mission field right
now. He's
now.
your missionary.
That's right. He's our missionary to the other side, and he, goes where they go and comes here, and but that's what it's about. We want to hold on to people in the church.
Right.
We get good people, and we're like, man, because he could teach Bible school, Bible studies for the adults and the men, and the ministry at the arena, but at this point, God's placed him out here.
Yes.
And you want to raise up these folks that can go help ministry in places.
Right.
But too often our churches are, oh, no, I don't want to share them. No, you got to share them because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And my daughter goes to a church, and they started another and said, we need, about 3 or 4, 50 or 60 families to go down to this other church. And I don't want you to all go, but we're going to kick y'all out because, as we did Jay, because you need to go do this ministry.
Well, it's wonderful,
Jay and
though.
Valerie are still part of our church. They just can't make it as often as some others because they've got this mission field to do.
You're sending people out,
That's right.
and that's what the
That's
church
right.
is supposed to do.
Yes, come in and then go.
Yes.
That's what the church is supposed to be, right?
That's it. That's exactly right.
Wow.
So, and one of the things that Jimmy brings to the table too is, we've since day one we called this the other side a local mission.
Yes.
Because we want this to be, I went to Mexico back in like 2005 and went on a mission trip. Man, it was absolutely one of the coolest things I ever did because that whole week my focus was on what am I going to do for God and Christ today.
Yes.
And not that they're two people. I don't want anybody to misunderstand it, but what am I going to do for Jesus today? And so it was great. When I came back, life got busy, and you got to go here, and the job's got you going there, and you got to go take the kid here and the wife over here, and next thing you know, you kind of lose that focus.
Yes.
And so when we started this, I said, the mission field that we miss is you open that door at the end of the hallway down here and throw a rock, and that's the mission we're missing.
That's right.
We'll go to Mexico and we'll go to Africa, and we need to do that. We need to do that.
Yes.
That's right.
But I wanted us to serve people here. I wanted this to be a local mission where, and I think we're mowing for the church back there around the arena and stuff, and I love doing stuff for the churches because a lot of times it's that thing that kind of falls in the cracks and you can't get enough people involved, but it's what we want to do. And Jimmy, one of Jimmy's really great talents is he's a builder.
Oh yeah.
And so
knowledgeable.
So I don't know how many wheelchair ramps he's built out here for people who needed a wheelchair ramp.
Yep.
And they call us, and the great thing about Jimmy is he doesn't just go out and build this wheelchair ramp. He goes out and he maps it out and shows the guys, this is how we're going to do it. This is what I want you to do. He's teaching them. He's teaching them some skills. How to read a tape measure. Wow. You think that's not a big deal, but for a lot of guys, it is a big deal. It's a big deal for me because I got to sit there and start ciphering and go, okay, now what's half of,
That's why I take Al on mission trips.
That's right, because Al knows how to do that.
He knows how to do that. I found out what we're going to do, and then I find people that know how to do it.
You bet. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming out and visiting with us today, and I want to thank you and the church for all that you guys do for us, and we feel like we're kind of like, you call me little brother all the time, and that's what I feel like, and I feel like this place is a little brother of Mountain Top Cowboy Church.
Yes, we love it and pray for it, and the ministry's good, and and like Dana said, it's one-on-one. You get some guy in here, and get him the Lord. It's and there's a revival going on in America.
There is
and
a
it's
revival
the younger. They passed my age group over.
Yes.
But last night they had a campus meeting at, and I'll get off here, at Baylor. 5,000 people gathered in the Foster Pavilion. Now, it has nothing to do with me. But 250 plus were saved.
Wow.
We're talking about a college campus.
And I've heard the same things going on at UCA, just right here in Central Arkansas.
My granddaughter goes to the University of Arkansas, and one morning she was walking to class, and she saw people up on the parking deck. Mm-hmm. For 7 to 10 days, they were standing on that parking deck praying for the students. On Friday night in Barnhill, they had secured a permit to have a student-led meeting.
Wow.
They had 10,000 people show up.
Oh, my goodness. And we didn't hear anything about that on the news.
What?
And outside the arena,
Imagine that.
they had horse troughs like we do.
Yes.
And people were being saved and they were baptizing, all led by Christian students on the campus of the University of Arkansas.
That's so encouraging.
That is not on the news.
No.
And we need that. We need that encouraging news.
That's right.
Yes, we do.
It was happening at Ohio. It's happening anyway. Just like it's happening here, one-on-one comes to Jesus Christ.
Right. Where was that? Kentucky? They had that revival that just went on and on and on and on and on, and and I thought, man, what a great awakening for kids, because it's one thing.
Stanford University in California had it.
Yeah, it's one thing for us, but these kids who have been told all their lives there is no God.
That's right.
You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. It's not about following rules. It's about creating a relationship with Christ.
That's right.
And when you create that relationship with Him, man, you're going to want to do things that you know are pleasing to Him.
That's right.
And it makes following the rules so much easier. It really does.
Well, it's that trust. What do you want me to do, Jesus?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Dana. Nice to meet you. I know your husband Larry from way back.
I know. It's
And
fun
so
to
it
watch
was
you two together.
Good to see
reminiscing.
you. Knew his dad really well, and just his sister, Jay.
Yeah.
Little brother, come by. Usually when I see Jay, it's like, how much do you need?
I love it.
He ought to call me little son.
Thank you.
Dana's probably got something she wants to close out with.
Well, we're all about addiction ministry, addiction, recovery. I don't really like to call it recovery.
Right.
I call it transformation
Right.
ministries. And, people focus so much on the problems of the world.
Yes.
And one of the big problems that our communities are facing and focused on is addiction.
Right.
But we know that the problem may be addiction, but the answer is Jesus.
Oh, yes.
Always.
And He came to set the captives free. And it's as simple as that. And that's what we're all about at Mountain Top Cowboy Church, at Arkansas Recovery Beyond, the Harbor Home, the other side, all of the ministries all across the state of Arkansas. We had over 1,000 beds represented at a meeting on Monday.
Amen.
So many people that have a heart for helping people that are struggling. And we're just so thankful to be in community with our local churches such as yourself. We couldn't do it without you.
Nope.
And it just means so much just to hear your heart.
I started a meeting one time and I just said Jesus Christ. And I said, now whatever question you got, that's the answer.
That's the,
I love that.
always
That's so simple.
Yes. That's right.
That's the best sermon ever.
That's right. I don't care what question you're going to ask. Here's your answer.
That's right.
That's great.
Thank y'all.
If you would, pray us out and,
Yes.
and let's end this with a prayer and we'll.
Father, it's so refreshing to spend time with you and people that love you. Father, no matter what's going on in the world, you're still in charge. Nothing's happened that's beyond you and the Father. And so we're excited always to be involved with ministry. I think one of the easiest ways that we forget is just find out where you're working and go get with you and do it. Thank you for this place and Harbor Home and Larry and Dana and Jay and all those at work and Brother Jimmy, Father, that help and work. But it's the same plan at our church that it is here, introducing people to Jesus Christ. Yes. There's only two kinds of people in the world that we should look at, and that's either lost or saved. You're either in one or the other category, and we have a ministry moving you from the lost to the saved, introducing you to Jesus. Amen. Thank you that you would bless the work, that you would help people find that peace and joy that comes from serving the Lord. Keep people safe today, and we do pray for our pastors and leaders and those that work with these addiction centers. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
That's all the time we have, and thanks for watching, and we hope that you'll remember to subscribe, to give us a like, and share it with your friends. So until next time, thanks for watching. We love you. Hey, and thanks for watching today. I'm glad you joined us. Hope you'll join us again. I hope some of the things that we talk about are going to be interesting to you. But I want to kind of tell you a little quick, kind of a snapshot of us. We're Recovery Arkansas and Beyond, and we're an arm of the Other Side Ministry. We're a faith-based, Christ-centered recovery center to help guys get through addiction, whatever addiction that may be, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And we just wanted to put something together that would kind of highlight some of these other guys and show them what we're doing in Arkansas. We wanted to put this thing together so you could see what we're doing out here, because there's a movement going on in the state right now where a lot of people have come together and put these facilities in similar to ours, and we're out here trying to help these guys get off this methamphetamine, get off of this fentanyl, get off of all these things that cause them so much trouble. And we wanted to put something together so that you could see what's going on and what's happening in your communities. We don't charge anybody to come out here. We felt like that Jesus paid the price, and so it doesn't cost anything for these guys to come out here, because we never wanted anyone to not come and get help because they felt like they couldn't afford it. So what we're going to ask you today, and we're not going to wear you out with this, but what we're going to ask for today is that if it's something you can do and you would like to donate to us, if you look below, you'll see a QR code, and we'll also include our email address. So one way or another, however you want to get in touch with us, that'll make it available for you to do that. And just let us know what you might want to do. There's one thing I definitely want to do on this program is I want to encourage you guys to send us emails to that email address and let us know your prayer requests and what's bothering you and the things that you may need prayer for. It may be a loved one who's struggling with addiction. It may be someone who's having some health issues. And send us those, and we have chapel out here 2 times a day, and we'll be more than glad to pray over those prayer requests. And also what I want you to do, as much as anything, I want you to send me praise reports. And those praise reports is what's God done for you. Because a lot of times, we're out there praying about, Lord, I hope you'll help me with this. But a lot of times he helps us with it, and we just want to shout it from the mountaintops. So send me those prayer requests and those praise reports, and we'll try to read as many praise reports as we can every week and just kind of let you know what's going on. So again, thanks for watching, and we ask right now that if you subscribe to the channel or you hit that like button for us or share this with your friends. That's what we really would like for you to do, and let's get this out to as many people as we can get it out to. So thanks for watching. We love you, and come back and see us.